Hi everyone, welcome to Bonnie Carol Lee Makes Cards. Today's Slimline card features Simon Says Stamps Spring Flower 4 on a stenciled background using a die from Pink Fresh Studio Slim Braided Circles panel. This versatile design could be used as an anniversary, wedding, or birthday card. Also incorporates a couple of older Simon Says Stamps products, Live Well and Cottage Stems. I began by die cutting a panel out of Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock using one of Pink Fresh Studio's slim stitched rectangles. This die set comes with 4 dies, 2 sizes of stitched rectangle dies, and then a corresponding plain panel die for each one. This panel was die cut from the larger of the 2 plain panel dies. Using a tool from Tonic Studios, I covered the panel with Nuvo Embellishment Mousse Poppy Pink. I spent a little bit of time spreading out the mousse, trying to get a nice even coat across the panel. Using Pink Fresh Studios Slim Braided Circles panel, I die cut a 110 pound piece of cardstock to use as a stencil. I lined up and used a bit of Post-it tape to tack down the pink panel to the back of the stencil. I should have mentioned that the pink panel was left to completely dry before I moved on to this next step. The Nuvo mousse dries surprisingly quickly, and I was ready to apply the Nuvo Crackle mousse. With the addition of the second layer of mousse, I found that my panel warped quite a bit. After this layer dried, I set the panel under something very heavy so that it would flatten out while I worked on the elements for the card. I stamped flowers from Simon Says Stamps Spring Flowers 4 with Versamark ink on Canson watercolor paper. If you are familiar with this stamp set, you will have noticed that there's one flower that doesn't belong here. That is for another card that I'm working on. The flowers were embossed with Wow Gold Rich embossing powder. I then dug out my travel set of Lucas paints. This was my very first set of watercolors given to me as a gift from a dear friend who is an artist. Because it is a smaller set, it is quite basic. It causes me to have to do some mixing to get the colors that I want. I began by applying a wash of color over my flowers. Starting with red as the base color, I added blue and various amounts of water so that each flower had a different tonal appearance. After the wash was dry, I continued to build up layers of color to add depth to each of the flower petals. Less water was used so that there was more saturated color at the base of each petal where the shadows would be. A clean brush with a little bit of water then softened and blended that color out to the petal's edge. When the flowers were completely dry, I used Gonze Tombi Starry Colors, the white metallic paint, to add in some shimmery highlights. For me, I find that this particular paint works best when water is applied directly to the pan. When left for a minute or so, it helps to soften up that paint, making it easier to work with. The flowers were fussy cut right up against the emboss line, a quick and simple job. The chunky sentiments, Live, Love, Laugh, from Simon Says Stamps Live Well, were embossed in Versamark ink. They were heat embossed with gold embossing powder 3 times. I used a Tim Holtz guillotine style paper trimmer to cut off the excess paper around the sentiments. The Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110 pound card base measures 4 by 9 inches. A matte gold panel was cut from the largest of Pink Fresh Studios Slim Stitched Rectangles die set. This panel and the slightly smaller stenciled panel were adhered to the card base. Before adhering the elements to the card, all of the flowers and sentiments were laid out. The sentiments were backed with white sheet foam before being glued down to the card base. The flowers were attached using foam squares. Simon Says Stamps Cottage Stems die was cut several times out of matte gold cardstock. The leaves and stems of flower buds were snipped off and tucked in and around the flowers. The card was finished off with a few pink iridescent embellishments using Nuvo Dream Drops Love Potion. And that completes this slimline card featuring Simon Says Stamps Spring Flowers 4 and some of the new slimline dies from Pink Fresh Studio. As always, I appreciate your visit. Thank you so much.